A quick note, the Sandy K Inner Circle is finally open. This has been years in the making, my private women-only community. Live Q&As, exclusive episodes, real conversations you won't find anywhere else. $47 Canadian a month. Link is in the show notes. Now let's dive into this week's episode. Hi, everyone. It's me, Sandy Cruz. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. For many years now, I've been a trusted voice for people in midlife and beyond who want a deeper, more honest conversation about wellness. One that includes the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the esoteric. Most episodes are solo now because I want to bring you thoughtful research, lived experience, and grounded insight without noise or bias. And when I do bring on a guest, it's because their work genuinely adds something meaningful to the conversation. Here, we explore the full spectrum of what it means to be well, how the body functions, how the mind heals, how the spirit expands, and how all of these layers shape life lived with clarity and joy. Thanks for being here. And if this show resonates with you, please follow, rate, review, and share it. It truly helps the message reach more people. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. I'm going deep again today, my friends, my beauties. And this, I actually felt very inspired to record when I saw this symbol. It's called the Unalome. This podcast is really about when every woman realizes I've been gone for a very long time. Typically, this happens in and around midlife. It doesn't mean that you're broken, not you're failing. You've just been gone. And the fact is that you didn't actually lose yourself. Your brain's adapted to this survival process. And in the process, it dimmed the parts of you that were maybe, too heavy to carry. So I'll show you the symbol that inspired me. And if you're watching this, you're going to see it backwards. It's called the Unalome. And it's an ancient symbol. It's the map of human nature, the map of the human condition. And that's what this podcast is about. So you'll see this symbol on TikTok. Like it's not about the tattoo. It's not about the aesthetic. It is the visual biography of really the female's nervous system. So, here at the bottom is birth. And then you see all these squiggly lines. Listen, I drew this. It's not very great. And this, it's written down as errors, but really it's not errors. This is kind of the process of life. And then it kind of goes straight and then it goes ... So the straight is really more about the human maturation, maturing. And then there's enlightenment. And so the spiral piece is really the overwhelm. And the knots that kind of go like this are the repeated survival patterns. The straight line is clarity that's returning, and the point and the dots is where the woman rises again. So this podcast is all about that process for women, and I'm going to give you some real structured ways to know where you're at in that process. And a lot of times the chaos and all the squigglies start around midlife. And then also how you can kind of proceed to the next level. I hope this resonates with you guys. And if it does, please subscribe wherever you are listening. I do lately a lot of podcasts that are very much body, mind, spirit, soul, because yes, there's the health piece, there's the nutrition piece. You guys all know I am a registered holistic nutritionist. I am also a certified metabolic balance coach. I've been in this space for a very long time, podcasting for over 6 years and over 1.4 million downloads. What inspired me? By the way, I am going to be at a speaking event for the Canadian Cancer Society coming in July. And I haven't done this in a long time. There was a time that both my daughter and myself, we kind of got into that whole loop of being this face of cancer. And I'm not insulting anybody if that is your path. My path, I tried a few different things. And I know I'm going a little off topic. For me, my line has never been straight. I'm an English literature graduate. I went back to college at age 46 after when I was age 40, my daughter was 5. She was diagnosed with a soft tissue sarcoma, a malignant tumor. Exactly 1 year later, I had my first surgery to remove my thyroid gland, a couple of lymph nodes, as I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So, I'm a big believer that, we all have this squiggly line. And it changes. And we don't I don't ever believe, even though the symbol says, okay, you're here, you're at the end, you're at enlightenment. I don't know if we ever really get to the end because we are constantly evolving as humans. But I found the symbol to be very beautiful because life does have so many twists and turns. And I know after having so many engaging conversations with so many of you that we all have these different twists and turns, and our lessons and our experiences are all different, but it all relates to the fact that the human condition, it's not always easy. So, how can we kind of accept the process and the stage that we're in and move to the next stage if we're ready to be finished with that stage? So why do women often lose themselves? And a lot of what I'm going to talk about is going to be neuroscience. There is going to be research. So women don't lose themselves because they're fragile. They lose themselves because their brains and bodies are forced into this chronic overload. So psychology does explain this spiral. There's an identity foreclosure. Women adopt identities based on roles: mother, partner, caregiver, instead of actually who they are. So emotionally, it might feel like I don't know who I am outside of what I do for others. This is the first turn of the spiral, and often this begins in motherhood. I know it did with me. And I actually was just writing about this on my Instagram. Go follow me on all of my social media platforms. It's how you support me. Most of what I do is passion over profit. It's just I'm out here doing my best to help as many people as I can. And this megaphone is how I do it. So follow me, Sandy K Nutrition, anywhere. I was just writing on my Instagram about how strong I was as a young woman. And I had an amazing career. I was doing well. I was functioning well. I was a university graduate. I think at one point I was running a call center in downtown Toronto, call center floor. I was running a couple of campaigns there. Then I moved to Dun and Bradstreet. I managed the inside sales team there. I was doing really well. Then I started having babies. And I will say that it was not a conscious shift, but now that I'm 56 years old, I can go, "Oh my God, I can see that shift when I look back." So, matrescence. This was coined by Dr. Dana Raphael, and it's called the identity fracture. So, MRI studies showed how motherhood restructures the brain. Empathy increases, vigilance increases, self orientation decreases, and emotionally, women will often say, I disappeared. I became everyone's everything. This is the identity fracture, and it's been named and shown in MRI. Women who have kids, this happens. It's very real. Then there's the emotional labor, the invisible drain. So women perform, these are stats, my friends, 2.5 times more emotional labor than men. So this drains the brain. It drains the brain systems responsible for clarity and self reflection. So emotionally, it can feel like I can't think, I can't rest, I can't hear myself. This is that spiral that's starting to tighten. Then there's role engulfment. So one role swallows your entire identity. Research by Revinson in 2016 showed that when one role dominates, mother, wife, caregiver, identity collapses inward. Emotionally, this feels like I'm not a person, I'm a function. And this is the deepest part of the spiral. I'm going to repeat that. It's that important. The research shows that when one role dominates, mother, wife, caregiver, the identity collapses inward. And emotionally, the person is saying, I'm not a person, I'm a function. And of that spiral, in the Unalome symbol, this is the deepest part of that spiral, that chaos. And by the way, go look it up. Unalome, Unalome. The knots. Why these patterns repeat. Women think they're failing, but the brain is simply doing what it's wired to do. So the brain keeps repeating what's familiar, even if it hurts. Neural pathways strengthen through repetition. That's why I do a lot of this mindset stuff in a different way to change some of these patterns that are so deeply ingrained in my brain. I was a stay-at-home mom for a number of years. I didn't do just that because I did do a lot of health advocacy. I built a few websites when my daughter was diagnosed, when I was diagnosed. I did a lot of advocacy, but technically my role was stay-at-home mom. So these neural pathways strengthen through repetition. So emotionally, it feels like, why do I always overgive? Why do I always silence myself? And these are neural grooves. They're not flaws. These are the knots in that symbol that I'm talking about throughout all of this, the unalome. The brain treats social rejection like physical pain. So, research by Naomi Essenberger shows that the brain processes social rejection using the same pathways as physical pain. So, emotionally, this feels like I can't handle disappointing people. Conflict makes me feel unsafe. These are the continued loops that I keep talking about. The good woman script becomes automatic. She's a good woman. She's home with my kids. A good woman. Carol Gilligan and Dana Jack's research shows that women are conditioned into hyper empathy, self suppression, relational soothing. These become automatic responses and not choices. These are the knots you live until you finally see them. And often menopause is the time that things become more clear. And it happens naturally. So, our hormones, our family, our children, our lives, our busyness, our driving to this activity, that keeps us in that state where we don't see it. Then all of a sudden, the physiological help of those hormones drops. That's a big piece, my beauties. When the hormones drop, the clarity becomes clearer. The straight line, the midlife awakening. This is the part that nobody warned you about. The part where everything inside you starts to revolt. This is the clarity center of the brain beginning to strengthen. People say midlife. I actually would argue this because midlife is technically, I think midlife is more like 40, 42. If you look at the average lifespan. This happens, in my opinion, a little bit later. You may start to really experience all of those kind of those crazy loops. But the clarity doesn't come yet in midlife. The clarity comes a little after midlife. So emotionally, this might feel like I'm done, no more. I'm not abandoning myself anymore. So you still might be in those loops of the Unalome, but they might be going a little bit straighter. The fear center of the brain might calm down. Research from Laura Cartensen shows that the brain becomes less reactive to judgment and social disapproval. Eventually, this feels like freedom, relief, self permission. This is the neural liberation part of the entire process. Motivation shifts from pleasing others to pleasing yourself. Dopamine, the motivation chemical, shifts away from approval and more toward authenticity. Emotionally, this feels like craving the truth, craving depth, craving alignment. This is really the beginning of the awakening. Unless, and I've recorded podcasts about this, unless you have fallen into this entire trap of wanting to numb because of the uncomfortableness of it all. It's not comfortable. And you do see, and I've recorded great podcasts about alcohol and women around midlife because it gets so hard and so full, and those knots are so intertwined in our brains that sometimes women turn to alcohol because it's too hard. I want to take a quick moment to tell you about something I created just for you. If you love what I talk about on this podcast, the hormones, the thyroid, the gut, the labs, the whole body, mind, spirit, and soul conversation, there's a place where we can get so much deeper than I ever could on this public feed. It's called the Sandy K Inner Circle, my private women-only community. Every month, you get a live Q&A with me on Zoom. Real questions, real answers, no scripts, no filters, nobody telling you that this must be done a certain way, just open discussions. You also get an exclusive episode nobody else hears, a practical download you can actually use, and access to our private women-only Facebook community where wide open, honest discussions happen on every topic. No agendas, no noise, no bias, no trendy health advice from people who pay for their platforms. Just real, honest conversations you won't find anywhere else. Founding member spots are limited, $47 Canadian per month. Link is in the show notes, sandycruz.substack.com. For women only, I would love to see you inside. So then you get to a point of this psychological rebirth or feminine individuation. This is Carl Jung. He shows that women individuate later because early adulthood is consumed by caregiving and emotional labor. Midlife is the first time a woman hears her own voice clearly. This is a straight line starting to become that point. So the point is the return home. This is the point when a woman becomes more herself again. And I don't know if you've heard this. Maybe you have women at menopause. You've changed. I have. I've heard this and I know I've changed. And I have changed because of all of these reasons, but also because life has not been easy for me. And this is why I always say empathy is so important because we do not know what anybody's life is really like. We think we know. You think you know me on social media. And yes, I am as authentic as I possibly can be, but you're not in my life, just like I'm not in yours. The moment when you find yourself again, it could come through hardship. It could come through this, natural evolution and awakening. Maybe you never really had it so much. Maybe because I truly believe women who always had a career and who monetize that career might feel this awakening differently because this is not the same for everybody. So emotionally, when you start to return home, you feel more grounded, more clear, more at peace. You have more power. And it's the moment where you say, I'm done shrinking and I'm done performing and I'm done apologizing and I'm done abandoning myself. This is the point of the Unalome. Now I'm going to give you a final segment to kind of figure out where you're at in this beautiful symbol of a woman's life. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say you're not lost. You're in a stage, and stages have signs. Stages have patterns, and stages have exits. And I'm going to give you some more identifiable markers of each stage and the tangible steps to help you move through them. Now, remember, I am not a psychologist. I have done some mindset training. You all know my training. I am not giving any medical advice or mental wellness advice. If you need to see somebody who's an expert in this area, do so because I'm not there. I'm just giving you some breadcrumbs for you to just kind of look at your life a little bit more in depth. The I don't recognize myself stage. How do you know you're here? You feel mentally noisy, overwhelmed, overstimulated. You can't hear your own thoughts. You feel like you're living on autopilot. You're exhausted but can't rest. You feel like you've disappeared inside your roles. For me, this was definitely my 40s. So, what to do in this stage if you've identified you're here is name the season that you're in. I always say name it to tame it. I don't think it's mine. I'm sure I heard it somewhere. Reduce the invisible labor. So let's break that down. What's invisible labor? You doing, all the laundry for everybody in your home and nobody even notices or says thank you. You certainly don't get paid for it. To me, this is often a stage where a woman is at home with her kids. Create a 10-minute daily boundary. Now, that I can't really tell you what that is for you, but take 10 minutes and say, these are my 10 minutes, and do whatever it is that you need to do. Interrupt the mental noise. The way I do that is actually through meditation. I meditate almost daily. I do energy work almost daily. So you'll have to figure out what that'll do for you, how to do it. Ask, what do I need right now? These are neural resets. And this is not self care fluff. The knots in that symbol. Why do I keep doing this stage? How to know you're here. You repeat the exact same emotional patterns. Change it, interrupt it. You overgive, overfunction, overexplain. You avoid conflict even when it hurts you, and you feel stuck in loops that you can't break. How to get out of this repeating stage. Identify your top survival pattern. What's your biggest pattern that's a survival pattern that is part of this loop? Use a micro pause before responding. And I'm really doing my best to do this and practice this more. Replace automatic yeses. So don't automatically say yes to everything. You see all kinds of stuff on social media like never say no, say yes to everything. I don't believe in that at all. That's the biggest load of shit because that can put you under so much more stress than you're already in. Track your emotional triggers. This is a big one. I've talked about triggers probably at nauseum at this point, but you got to track them and stop and pause to notice them. And then ask also, who taught me this? These are pattern disruptors. So, is this something that's generational? Did you learn this from your family, your mother, your father? And that's okay because everybody does their best. Nobody's shaming anyone here. Now, the straight line is more the I'm done stage. So, how to know if you're here is you feel that clarity rising. You're less tolerant of the bullshit. You're craving truth. You're setting boundaries without guilt. You feel a pull towards authenticity. I've been in this stage for a while, but again, it's not one and done. It's a process. So, what to do? Choose one non negotiable boundary. Practice the no explanation no. Say no without over explaining yourself. No, I'm sorry, I can't make it tomorrow. That's it. Easy. Create a weekly clarity ritual. Remove one energy leak. What's an energy leak? Let's talk about that. I think the way that you can remove that energy leak is to establish more boundaries and practice the no explanation no. Because I think leaks happen when you start to question yourself, your purpose. So remove one energy leak, whatever that is. And that doesn't mean cutting off your mom or your dad. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where are you leaking? And I think a great way to start is just to say no when something just doesn't align with you. Say one small truth a day. All of these things stabilize the awakening side of all of it. So the point, the two dots too, is I'm finally me again. So even though the Unalome says it's enlightenment, you're not. The I'm finally me again can be the ending. However, that doesn't mean everything's over and you've reached enlightenment and everything's fine. What it means is that you feel grounded, clear, and unapologetic. You no longer are performing. You feel like you've come home to yourself again if you've lost it. You're choosing your life consciously and you feel integrated. And so, back to that whole thing about you've changed. If somebody said to you, you've changed, think of that actually as coming close to this stage that I'm talking about right now. If someone says to me, hey, oh my God, you've changed. You look amazing. You look brighter. You look fabulous. Then I know that that's a true compliment. If somebody says to me, huh, you've changed because I have said, oh, I can't make it tomorrow. Yeah, I have changed. And I can't make it tomorrow should stand on its own. What to do next when you hit this stage where you're in that final stage? You want to build your future self identity cue. You want to audit your relationships. You want to choose your next expansion and practice daily self permission. This anchors this transformation. So, this isn't about, again, cutting off family. I'm a big believer. Family's always on the inside circle, unless, of course, there was like some sort of serious abuse that's happened. There's always different circumstances. My family is in my inner circle, and I have different inner circles. I've got my mom, my dad, my sister, her family, my nieces and nephews, my sister in law. They're in my inner circle. That's my family is my family. Of course, my husband and my children. Everybody else is on the periphery. And I audit those relationships more so. I have very few close friends because I've had a lot of eye-opening learning experiences. And when you open up your eyes and see things for what they really are, that clarity part, it's pretty amazing how easy it is to set these boundaries. So I'm going to leave you with this. Where am I in my Unalome today? Because the journey isn't about reaching the point, as I said. It's about honoring every twist, every knot, every spiral that brought you here. You're not behind, and you're not late, and you are not lost. You are on your path, and your path is yours only, and it's very, very sacred. So, with that, I'm going to end this podcast. I hope it helped you. Please share it with a friend, and don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are listening. I thank you, and I'll see you all next week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to share it with someone you know might benefit. And always remember, when you rate, review, subscribe, you help to support my content and help me to keep going and bringing these conversations to you each and every week. Join me next week for a new topic, new guest, new exciting conversations to help you live your best life.